Hello friends, Tiger Coward here. Welcome to the epilogue of the Trans Taiga adventure that Spike and I had in August of 2024. In this episode, I'm not going to have any riding. It's just going to be a backgrounder on our trip. So if you want to skip it, skip on to episode 2 when we actually hit the road. All right, in this series, we don't head directly to the Trans Taiga Road. We take a roundabout way to get there. We head northeast to Chibougamau, and I just say that because it's so fun to say. Then we head north on the North Road all the way to Namaska, the world's friendliest town. From there, we head north again. We take the East Main Road and the Muskeg Road, and we end up on the Billy Diamond Highway. The Billy Diamond Highway used to be called the James Bay Road, and it is an incredible ride. We get to the end of it, we stay in Radisson and head out to Chiasabi and have a great evening there and dip our toes in James Bay. It's only the second time I've actually had my toes in the salty waters of the Arctic Ocean. Pretty cool. Then we get to the grand finale, which is the Trans Taiga Road. We took 4 days to ride it. It's 666 kilometers to the end, and it holds the moniker as the world's most, overstatement as usual from me, holds the moniker of North America's most remote road. The reason they call it that is that it's the furthest point you can reach by road from another town or village. So you're 666 kilometers to the end of the road, plus another 80 to Radisson, so you're well over 1,200 kilometers on a round trip from Radisson to the end of the Trans Taiga. Of course, we did this on our motorcycles. I was riding my 2019 Triumph Tiger XRT, and Spike was on his 2014 V-Strom 650. We didn't do a lot of preparation for this, just oil changes. We put new tires on. I was running the Dunlop Trail Max Missions, and they turned out to be great. And Spike was riding the TKC 70s. Our bikes are pretty well kitted out as they come stock, but we've added a few things, not much, just a more robust skid plate and a headlight cover. Other than that, the only thing I added was some sock shocks. Or is it shock socks? Shock socks. That's all we did, and the bikes held up great on a really, really rough road. But the reason I'm doing this prologue isn't to tell you about the road, because you can Google that. It's to tell you about the genesis of this idea of when we decided to go on the Trans Taiga, because it's quite meaningful to me. 3 years ago, we were riding on the Trans-Labrador Highway. What a fabulous trip that was, although it's paved most of the way now, so there's only 600 or 700 kilometers of gravel. But while we were on that trip, Spike said to me he'd like to ride the James Bay Road and the Trans Taiga. I'd never heard of the Trans Taiga, but it sounded like an adventure too good to miss, so I was up for that. But the true genesis of this story goes back to 1982, and 3 things happened in 1982. The first was I lost my hair. I have alopecia, and I became the bald kid at my high school. Not a lot of fun in the big hair 1982 era. I realize now that I'm actually a more evolved species than the hairy ape people that are the majority on the planet. I'm more of a Homo sapien 2.0. But before I realized that, I was just a scared teenager in the 1980s. I took refuge in our library at lunch to stay away from the hairy bullies. And fortunately for me, they had a subscription to Cycle Canada. And I loved it. I was already a moto junkie because of my uncles in the UK and their motorcycles. But I became more of a moto junkie when I read all of the issues of Cycle Canada that they had in the library. This was quite surprising to anybody who knew me because I couldn't finish a single book that was assigned in our English class, but I had no problem reading about motorcycles. That still lasts to today. Anyhow, one of the issues that I read that I was enamored with was an adventure of two guys riding their motorcycles all the way to James Bay on the James Bay Road. I knew at that time that I would make that ride. I wasn't sure how or when, but it was always in my mind that I wanted to ride the James Bay Road. Also in 1982, I met my good friend Spike. We bought our motorcycles together. I bought an XL 250, he bought an XL 185, and we rode all over the place. We rode to many places that were fun, many places we shouldn't have gone, and many places maybe it wasn't even safe to ride little bikes like that, but we did it. It wasn't long before we went from our little XLs onto road bikes, and with that came bigger and longer trips. And then we ended up heading up to Quebec, and that's where he met the love of his life, Madame Spike. He ended up going back and living in Quebec, and I stayed in Ontario, and when kids and mortgages and all the adult stuff happened, we kind of drifted apart. Like many people, as we get older, motorcycles took a back seat to our adult responsibilities. But then slowly we got back into it, and out of the blue in 2019, Spike gave me a call and said he was going to be riding right past the center of the universe where I live, and would I like to hook up with him. I was excited. I hadn't realized he was riding again, and he hadn't realized I was riding again. So I rode out to Sudbury and met him, and we rode around for a couple days, and it was fantastic. Since then, we knew nothing would stop us from riding together. Well, except maybe a worldwide pandemic, so there was the 1 year we didn't ride together since then. We've ridden all over the place. We've ridden the Trans Labrador Highway. We've ridden down to the Tail of the Dragon. This summer, we rode out to Beartooth Pass in Montana. We've had a great time, but there's never been a trip like this one. This trip cemented the fact that we are BBFFs, best bike friends forever. Anyhow, this is the end of the epilogue for this series. Please join us. It was fantastic, and it actually changed me. I hope you'll tune in and watch it. So there you have the genesis of this trip. Goes back to 1982 and me hiding in the library reading Cycle Canada, all the way to 2021 when Spike says, let's ride the Trans Taiga. And then finally, August 19th of this year, we do it. So please join us. Also, hit like and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, but it means a lot to my little channel. See you in the next video. Go forth with an open mind, and most importantly, an open heart. And remember, self-care is not selfish.